Okay. I'm going to try from my phone. My computer is having some major technical difficulty, and I'm going to see if this works. So I guess I'm curious who all can hear me and see me, and see if this actually works. Let's see here. Whoops. Is this any better? I'm trying from my phone instead of my computer, and I have my speaker kind of on. So perfect. It's working. I love it. Okay. Yay. Phew, sorry about that. Thank you so much for all your patience. Again, I tried a temporary one on my computer, and that wasn't working, so let's try it this way. So this is from my phone, and I have my microphone on, which I use for talking to normal people anyway on the phone. So, yay! As a brief introduction, I want to say thank you to Ruby for inviting me to be a speaker. It's very exciting for me. This is my first live. So thank you all for coming on and joining me and being patient while everything happening, because this is definitely my first live. And I apologize too if you hear a little whining in the background. I have a couple of puppies that, of course, they're going to start whining a little bit. We went outside and pottied and played and had all that fun stuff, but you all are dog people, so I'm sure you understand. They'll settle down, they have their bones. But anyway, so I'm Julie Westphal. I'm actually a licensed vet tech. Just take a couple minutes to maybe introduce myself, and then we can jump right into your questions. I've tried to watch some lives to see how all this is working, and if you type in your questions, I will try to get to as many as I can, as soon as I can, and we'll go over basically, hopefully, all of your questions and get some tips and tricks for you to move forward with. But I am a licensed vet tech. I've worked in general practice and emergency medicine. I've been doing behavior for about almost 21 years now, from puppy to competition. I've done multiple breeds and mixes, titled and competed in many different sports. So I feel pretty confident answering puppy to competition questions, but I've also primarily focused on cooperative care with veterinarians. I work with about 37 different veterinarians currently on cooperative care with their aggression patients and things like that, dogs that need to be sedated, as well as a lot of anxiety cases. You know, the top two things I see are aggression and anxiety. I love my puppies. I love when I can see puppies and work with them from scratch, but I tend to do a little bit more of those hard cases. So if you throw out a question I don't know, I'll refer you to someone else, or, a little bit higher up, or get you some resources afterwards, but pretty confident I can answer most of the questions. So again, thank you all for joining me and for your patience. I'm a little bit later than I expected, but if anybody has some questions, go ahead and just start typing them in for me, and I'll go ahead and start answering them. Otherwise, I can also bring up a couple of case examples. But what's on everybody's mind today? What questions can I answer today on behavior modification for you? Anybody? Hopefully I'm not having technical difficulties again. I guess the first question would be, can everybody still hear me? Uh-oh. All right. Can everybody still hear me? Is this still working? Okay. All right, perfect. Well, as long as it's still working, I guess some of the top questions that usually I would answer in behavior modification would actually be separation from other dogs. Okay, good. And case studies. Okay. Separation from other dogs. What would be the question for that? So, is there aggression going on? Is there anxiety going on? Maybe refresh my memory. If did you have the intact males, Joe? Oh, perfect, Margaret. Thank you. I'm glad that you can hear me. Again, I apologize for technical difficulties. So there's a question with Joe as far as dealing with separation from other dogs. I probably would need to know a little bit more about what's going on. Is it, intact animals that you're having issue with for separating, or what's going on. Maybe give me a little bit more of what's going on with the behavior. I guess until I can see a little bit more of what's going on for the separation. The case studies, probably one of the more recent case studies I have. Well, let's see. Okay, so one dog is hyper attached to others in the house, can't cope when they're walked. Okay. And he's not. Okay. Okay. So super attached to a dog. COVID. Okay, and the next question would be, at a vet says of COVID, how do you go about nervous puppy that's drooling within a half an hour of waiting? And that's what we're dealing with at the vets at the moment. Okay, all right, we can definitely talk about that too. I do have a talk, Zena, for cooperative care at the vet office coming up. That's one of the next 5 talks I have. I have them listed as well. We can definitely delve more into that during cooperative care as well for future visits, just to let you know. But as far as the hyper attached to others in the household, so I guess in a big general sense of the term, when I deal with behavior cases, I want to always find out like how old the dog is. Are their hormones affiliated, intact versus not intact? What are some of I always look at nutritional background and sleep patterns. I want to go ahead and bring the entire picture to the background. So we can definitely talk more. I'll give you some general stuff, but if it's not quite, if you've already tried it, then we can do some talk more personally as well. I'm always happy to do that. Behind. Okay, so a follow-up is he's fine without them, or he's fine out without them, but not if he's left behind or separated by a barrier. Okay. All right. That gives me more information. So that would be as far as what training have you done with him? How are his, we always talk about the emotional state of the dog, and we talk about the behavioral aspects. So like the obedience foundations, or the cues that they already know. How are his actual impulse control exercises? How does he do with different stays and weights and things like that? So because if that is something we can put on board a little bit more at first, we might be able to help a little bit more of the impulse control. And then we can also work the emotional state at the same time. If it's that he's over threshold, that he actually just can't think, he can't, control himself for those situations, then we need to bring him back below threshold and help him be more secure and more confident with what he can do. And just in very general sense of things, without knowing a lot of more information, again, when I do behavior studies, I have questionnaires and in-depth histories, and we go over everything. But in general, when dogs are struggling with coping with being by themselves, having that separation kind of anxiety going on, then we want to build confidence. We want to get them a little bit more emotionally secure in what they can do. And that is also where we can teach even some simplest, like go to your bed and play stays, so that he can learn some of those things, and able to build off of that, so then he can handle the other dogs going away. So especially with them all being there, I'm assuming multiple dogs. And I personally, as a little bit of background, right now I have 7 dogs in my household. I have a multi-dog household. So we all learn play stays. We all learn go to bed. We actually then, learn how to stay on the bed while another dog's working. And then we do that kind of rotational thing. Crate training is always another option. Again, I don't know what his anxiety is like, but if he has a kennel where it's a little bit more of a barrier and he's okay in a kennel, we can teach him that he doesn't have to go ballistic across that barrier, but I don't want to create barrier frustration either. So again, without knowing that background. There are supplements and medications that can potentially help if he really is super high drive over threshold, just I can't do this without, being with everybody. Then, we can talk about, again, impulse control exercises, emotional states, but also maybe helping him with some supplements. There are, I don't know what I'm allowed to say and what I'm not allowed to say with an international conference. As a licensed technician, I know what I'm allowed to say here in the States. But being able to have, melatonin be discussed with your vet, basically there's Fortiflora calming care. That's one product that can be something to help alleviate low level anxiety. And then there's also prescription medications that the vet can prescribe to help him come down below threshold, so that you can work with him, behavior modify, build his confidence, help his emotional state, and then he can get off of the medications later on. I've actually helped a lot of dogs get off of medication pretty quickly, as far as a couple of months versus years and years that they've been on it. And so sometimes that can help them just in that short-term period to be able to modify. Started melatonin tonight was an answer. Good. He's over threshold immediately, has generalized anxiety, confinement anxiety. Okay, that answers my question. And he's on medication, fluoxetine and clonidine. Okay, so definitely, we've been struggling with this problem for a while. The medications, are they working? Are they not? Do you have a person that you're currently working with? Because that would be the other, if you have somebody who's more of a professional behavioral consultant that you can work with one-on-one or in person or on Zoom lessons, those are some things that I'm happy to do that. I do worldwide consults, but if you have someone close, that can help you with that as well. But being able probably to see a video would be more helpful to work the behavior, to see exactly, how quickly, because you say he's going over immediately. Well, if everybody's in the room and he's learning how to play stay, for instance, and we bring one dog to the middle of the floor and he can't stay, well, then we need to back it down and go back to basics again. So if like over threshold means one dog moves and he can't maintain it, we've got to make it more successful to him to maintain it. Does that kind of make sense? I hope that everybody, again, can hear me and it kind of makes sense doing that. So what I would probably work with a little bit more is go back to some foundation exercises. You've got good start on those medications, but if they're not, if the combination isn't working to bring him below threshold, then we need to kind of back down to super basic and really help him get emotionally stable with things. The other consideration is how old is he? Has he been doing this for a really long period of time? But being able to actually maybe do that. And I never like to jump to conclusions about who knows what about behavior or, starting exercises. But, for instance, with him, again, maybe start teaching that everybody goes to a place, they learn how to just stay and wait while you basically step away and come back, go very big, back to basics for stays, but then also really up the ante. So instead of him, it's a fine line between jumping him into play and really getting him over threshold and that adrenaline and cortisol. But play, if they're playing, they're not stressed out. It's kind of incompatible. When they're super fearful and they're super stressed out, a lot of dogs don't want to play. So even if it's one time, I generally say, how many times do you have to do something in an emergency? One time. So if you can get everybody to stay and, play stay and maybe again, you can step away and come back, end it on that one time for that particular session. It was 30 seconds or a minute, and play with him, really give him that emotional confidence that he can do it one time. Because if he can do it one time for multiple sessions, and be able to what we call add duration and, add your distance and your 4Ds, then be able to actually, then we can do it 2 times, then we can do it 3, then we can go across the room, everybody's on their place and I can call one dog across the room. So I hope that makes sense to maybe start very, very basic with him and see if you can't get the impulse control started. And then we'll go from there. I would love to hear an update, maybe try that for a few days where you can work with him. And then let's talk in a couple of days and, give me an update. We can maybe move over to the next steps. Would that make sense for you, Joe? Does that work for you? Oh, okay. And then, okay, I have a thanks. And then he's 3. Okay. So 3, if he's been going on for a period of time, he's in this habit. We need to just modify his habit now. And we want to make it more fun, in a way, make it more fun for you to leave and the other dogs to leave than it is for him to worry about that. So if it's more fun, if he stays and it's more fun because he gets to get that jolly ball or he gets to get that super awesome, treat ball or whatever that he really likes and he gets to play by doing it one time, then he's going to have more fun with you leaving and everybody leaving than with worrying about you leaving. So we just want it more fun for him to say, bye, see you later, goodbye. And then when you come back, he's like, I was cool, that was awesome. And that's kind of where I might start, just not knowing everything else that's going on. But try that and we'll talk in a couple of days if you want. All right, so Margaret says, any ideas to help my rescue boy stop opening doors? Okay, smart, good. He can unlock and open doors and has recently worked out how to open kitchen cupboard too. So excellent question. Is there any way to stop him? Prevention. I know that's an obvious answer, so to speak. You can do kid latches and things like that. They have those, the kid plastic latches sometimes that even if they go to open a drawer, in the cupboards that they can't open it all the way. They would have to keep doing it to break it. And maybe he's that smart. Maybe he would learn to break it. So that's kind of a prevention thing. Also, why is he opening them? If he's unlocking doors because he gets reinforced by going outside, is there a way that we can do other confinement for him? Can we do a different playpen area? How old is he? What breed is he? What size is he? What does he do for enrichment already? If he's bored, is he trying to open the doors to, go outside to find you, or is he just trying to open the doors to go out and play? The cupboard, I'm suspecting there's something in the cupboard that he wants, treats, snacks, food, etc. Dogs do what works, and so he's opening cupboards most likely to get that reinforcement. So we have to make that reinforcement of not opening the cupboards more than opening them. And very kind of succinctly in a way saying, okay, if we go to the kitchen, we train in the kitchen a lot more. A lot of dogs that I have, when they're counter surfers and they're getting reinforced by some of that stuff, is we go specifically and train in the kitchen. And so I would teach them really good, like, off behaviors, leave it behaviors, and that basically if they don't open the cupboard, they get what's inside the cupboard. It's kind of a reverse, way of thinking in some ways, but I found it to be very effective with a lot of dogs where, if I do have a treat in the cupboard, and we're training this, then he can actually say, the more I stay away from the cupboard, I actually get what I want. The more I stay away from the drawers, I actually get what I want. And then the doors, again, what doors are they? Are they bedroom doors, outside doors? What's his motivation and reinforcement to do that? We want to make it more exciting to not do that. So a lot of times, again, we're talking about foundational cued behaviors like your sits, your go to your beds, your leave-its, your stays, your waits, things like that. But then we're also talking about the emotional state of things. So, why are they doing it? What are they getting out of it? And trying to change what they think of that. Because in all reality, I tell all my students this, if the only thing you take away is that dogs do what works, that's why they're doing it. It makes them, either works because it makes them feel better, the anxiety, it makes them feel better to do something and actually have that. Or, they do it because it, gets the reinforcement of going outside. It gets the reinforcement of the food or the toy, the attention even. So dogs do what works. And so we want to kind of help him see that it doesn't work anymore. Marcus says he's a 4-year-old GSP. Of course he is. Hunting breed, smart dog. Yep. And yes, he knows that's where the food is. So, yep. So kind of along that line of try to eliminate why he's getting reinforced by opening it himself, and see if we can't reinforce him for not opening it. So I teach away behaviors to the point that I can put a plate of food down in the middle of my living room. I can probably do a video of this sometime for somebody if they want it, but I can put a plate of food in the middle of my living room and walk away. And all my dogs, the moment they see that plate, they actually scatter to their beds because they've learned, hey, if there's food here, if we go to our bed, we're more likely going to get it. So it's an away behavior. And being able to just teach them that, hey, if you stay away from the cupboards, you're more than likely going to get more out of the cupboard. If you stay away from the doors, you're going to get more outside the doors. And the follow-up is the outside doors when he wants to go out and I'm not quick enough. Okay, fair enough. So kind of the same thing. Being able to have the outside doors helping with the obedience cues of waits, teaching really good solid waits and stays so that, you potentially can even start to open the door and close the door and he's staying away and he's waiting. Again, more reinforcing to not go outside until you have him break. And I use a lot of yes cues to say you've earned things like a reward or a treat or freedom. So food, treats, toys, freedom, praise, of course. But otherwise actually teaching him a break cue, something like you can say yes, and that means something, but you could also start to teach him that yes and then break means that you can actually, bolt forward. So it's a nice little, release cue like that versus just your yes equals your food, treats, toys, etc. But that, again, away behaviors, teaching him maybe a wait or stay and practicing that, if you sit and stay over here and I can barely open the door and close the door, he's actually going to go ahead and wait. Let's see. Oopsies. I have a... Okay, if he's there, then he will wait. Okay. So how is he opening? Is it just a single door that he's opening or can we do prevention and close the door until we can train him a little bit better to maybe place? That would be the secondary option for me is that, you can teach a dog to place on a towel or a bed or, even like a nod skid mat, a welcome mat. And before he ever goes outside, he has to place so that, you are teaching it while you're with him, of course, but then you also start to show him that, the door never opens. Because again, maybe there's a safety latch right now, or we do close the inside door, but he never gets to actually leave the house unless he places. So that might be another option for you too, if he's doing that. And, again, if you have more questions about how to teach it, we can definitely talk about that as we go. Sorry, I have there we go, notification that came up that was blocking everything. And then... So does that make sense, Margaret, to maybe start on some of those things? And same thing, if you're having trouble, maybe try those things for a few days. We can definitely talk some more about the next steps and things like that if you would like. So then I had, I'm sorry, I'm scrolling for just a minute. So I want to say, okay, so we had the vet question. Okay, so Zena, I think you asked the vet question, and then you also said my family has a pheromone calming collar, thinking about also giving herbal calming chews and tablets. I think those are a good idea. My personal preference, I'm an Amazon shopper. If everybody's an Amazon shopper, I'm a big Amazon shopper because it comes to my door, and when I have long days, super easy to just have it at my door. My favorite kind of calming chews right now are actually VetraScience. It's called Composure Pro. Those tend to be working pretty well for a lot of my cases when they have low level anxiety. The drooling, herbal treatment for calming will also help. Lupine, okay, lupine dog, a little bit of genetic factor there. So yeah, so with the drooling, again, maybe if you're able to attend the cooperative care talk, I can address it a little bit more, Zena. But we can also, cookie visits. So in between, so she's 5 months old, we have the calming collar. I know with COVID, it's a little bit trickier, but even like bringing her outside the vet office and allowing her to sniff around, go on a snuffari. Snuffaris for me are kind of like scatter feeding, in addition to being able to sniff different areas and getting paid to do things like simple, easy exercises like check it outs. Check it outs to me, or you can look at that, but don't react to that. Look at that, feel good about it kind of thing. Again, changing the emotional state as well as helping with some of the obedience, the foundation for cues and things like that. But being able to do a little bit more cookie visits and bringing her to the vet, if they allow you to go inside to just sit in the reception area for 5 minutes, the more you can probably try to bring her and make it positive, the less anxiety we can have behind it. The only time humans go to the doctor most typically are when they're sick. If doctors paid us instead of us paying them, we'd probably want to go a lot more too. But we can at least do that for our dogs. We can pay them to go. We can give them, if she's not food motivated, say she's drooling, she's nauseous, she's that stressed out, will she play? Because again, if we can get her to play, even if she doesn't want to necessarily take food, we can get her to play and we can give her that praise and those pets, we can probably help her out a little bit more too. And that doesn't necessarily mean inside the vet office. It means outside of the vet office, even if it's just on the sidewalk or in the parking lot. Some of those things can help them just start to change the emotional state instead of like, oh, I go in all the time and they stick a thermometer up my butt and they stab me in the back. I don't blame them for not wanting to go to the vet office. That would suck. And so again, same way that we kind of look at doctors. But again, we can teach them that, hey, I'm going to pay you to do these things. I do have some videos, again, if you're a part of the page for Trekking Dog Trainer, or you want to message me privately, I do have some fear-free cooperative care videos I'd be happy to send links to, and anybody who's following can absolutely ask for those things. Just message me and let me know, and we can definitely go from there. But, as far as like teaching her how to do cookie visits and how to make things better with licky mats, are one of my favorite things as well. Again, if we can get her to eat, that's gold. Cream cheese, chicken, high value things. But if she's drooling and that upset, we've got to start a little bit lower. So if calming chews can help, absolutely. The calming collar is a great idea. Sometimes thunder shirts, if they are a little bit more scared and they like to be a little bit more, swaddled, if you will, because that's what we do with babies and humans. Sometimes those thunder shirts can help, those little calming shirts. But there's a lot of different things too that we can do to just change the emotional state. And as we change the emotional state, we don't necessarily need all the supplements and things like that either. I hope that, let me know, Zena, if that kind of makes sense as a good starting point for you, if you have other questions going on too. Then I think Sandra had a question. Sorry guys, I just have to scroll real quick to find them. So Sandra, let's see, your question was, my shepherd won't leave my cats and older lab alone. She's 7 months. She also barks at everyone and runs towards them with hackles up. Okay, so she's a teenager kind of going through some stuff right now. And I think you had a follow-up. Let me just see what that follow-up was. German Shepherd. Okay. Let's see. Oh, and Margaret, I read your comment. Give the place a try, see how that goes. Absolutely. And let me know if there's more stuff, that we can work on as well. Happy to help. Okay, and then Alicia also asked, I have a German Shepherd, Alaskan Malamute, Rottie mix. He's 7 months old. Again, we're talking about 7-month-old teenagers. I might kind of put you guys, Sandra and Alicia, I might go ahead and answer both of these questions because they're probably pertinent to both. Because he's scared of everyone and everything, even if he knows them, he barks nonstop at people. Let's see whether he knows them or not. Is there anything I can do to help this? Yes. Short answer. We can definitely help him with that. Not a problem. Let's talk about that. Yep, Sandra came same as your German Shepherd. Yep, you got it. And then Xena, she gets overwhelmed a lot. It's outside the house or garden. She won't accept any food or play. Okay, we try working on it slowly. Xena is maybe just the final thought in addition to cookie visits. So if she gets overwhelmed a lot outside, I would do something, and this actually is pertinent to Alicia and Sandra. So when we have dogs that are scared, let's back up just a second. So when we have dogs that are scared or reacting to their environment, we can call it lack of socialization. We can call it this or that. I don't try to label anything anymore. But when we have some of those things, we want to change the emotional state of the dog, right? Because that's what's going on is they're thinking, this is scary. I don't like this. This makes me feel better. This behavior, barking, reacting, hackling, that makes me feel better. It makes me feel like I can make things go away. So a lot of times when dogs are reactive, they are successful in getting people to go away. When someone sees a German Shepherd or a German Shepherd, Alaskan Malamute mix barking at them, coming their way with hackles up, most people are going to take a second glance and go, whoa, I don't want that dog coming towards me. Don't know what's going on. So it actually the dog gets self-reinforced. I do this and it works. So again, going back to dogs do what works, we definitely want to kind of help them change that emotional state. So if with Xena, she's a little bit more overwhelmed and drooling, all 3 of these dogs can benefit from something called what I call an observational session. And an observational session to me is where you go outside with no expectations. The dog is simply on leash, keep safety in mind, of course, or if it's your fenced in yard, if you want to start in the backyard, because that helps, that's fine. But go outside, and a lot of times during these observational sessions, I'll do what's called a check it out. And so by teaching them check it out, it simply means to look at something and not react to it. So for instance, if I go outside and my dog's like, oh, a leaf, I'll be like, check it out. Yes. Now, if they'll accept a piece of food, great. If they don't, I'll praise, I'll at least give them some contact, and then we'll walk to a new spot. But chances are good if you start in an area where the dog is a little bit more. So, if she's overwhelmed, especially with dogs that are overwhelmed outside or they're super hypervigilant outside, if you at least go to a spot where they're a little bit more comfortable, and that could even mean opening a window for your dog Xena, opening a window and letting her look out the window. So she's safe inside, but we can teach her check it out, and we can start building an emotional attachment to check it out of this is actually kind of cool. You want me to look at that bird, and if she'll eat inside the house, that's even better. I also like to integrate play. Play is super important, and I think it's a very often missed thing when people forget that it's not just about food, it's about treats, toys, freedom, and praise. You can't, if a dog's scared, your hands on your dog is not going to reinforce fear. You can't reinforce fear. So be able to just, help your dog get through this, move them to a new spot, get them to a little bit more comfortable area. And that's something we want to do. But with her, if we start in the house where she's most comfortable, a check it out is simply look at that. I'm going to yes you. I'm going to pay you. I'm going to praise you. I'm going to play with you. So if she has a favorite squeak toy, that's kind of going into like toys. We don't leave them out all the time. At least I don't. We rotate them. We have very happy ones. So even again, let's see, because I think it was Alicia, right? Alicia and Sandra, like even with your dogs, high value toys, bring those outside, because I want the dogs when I go out to be more interested in me and worry about checking in with me. I shouldn't say worry, but check in with me versus have to worry about the environment. So anything that they're worried about, I want to be like, hey, you know what? Over here is way more fun. Squeak, squeak, squeak. I got high value food, and sometimes that does mean like chicken, string cheese, liver, dehydrated stuff. It could be sometimes that it's just not, valuable enough. And think about when you go outside. Are you going outside right after they eat breakfast, or are you going outside before they eat breakfast? So my training sessions are also planned a little bit more around when they're a little bit hungrier, so I have a little bit more of that food drive, but then also I can bring out those toys and those other high value things to get them to come back to me and help them come back to me that way. So starting with some check it out sessions can definitely help. And again, even with Sandra and Alicia, your dogs, how do we get them to stop barking and charging other people? Well, for instance, if they're hackling and charging, we have kind of that 7-month-old range right now where, even 5 to 7 months, because we're out of that imprinting window. We have that 7-month-old kind of starting to get into that teenage stage, take a stand stage, and they go through different fear periods and things like that, where they have these little bit more of this edge, right? Because So help them by going out and just doing a check it out session. Teach them what it actually is. And what check it out to me is really about is like, oh, there's a squirrel. Check it out. Yes, you get paid. Come back over here. Great. Here's your piece of cheese. Oh, there's a leaf. Check it out. Yes, you get paid. So I start with things that they're not reacting to, so that they learn, of course, how to do check it out. And then that way, when they see that person with that hooded sweatshirt or, whatever, they're going like, oh, that might be a threat. Well, then I can go check it out, and they go, oh, really? And they can come back to me. Yeah, come touch. So I also teach basics like come touch. Obviously, recall is important. I personally tell my students, if the only things that you ever teach your dog are to recall, to touch, and their name, you can get them out of just about any trouble that they can get into. But I mean, really teach them that. So I don't worry about sits and downs right away. I worry about come, I worry about touch, and I worry about name recognition. Because basically if I say check it out, which is part of this plan, then I can go come touch, yes, and I can pay them. So in order to get them to not react, we actually have to teach them that not reacting is more fun, and checking in with me or you is more fun and more rewarding than ever reacting. I work protection sports. You do not lose a protective dog, and sometimes that's people's worry. You don't lose a protective dog because you teach them confidence. You get a confident dog who actually can establish threat versus non-threat. And right now, a reactive dog sees everything as a threat. That's a liability. In my world, in court cases and things like that too, it's a liability. We don't want a liability. We want a dog that goes, ooh, what is that? Mom, what do you want me to do? Or Dad, what do you want me to do? So that's kind of where we want to teach them a little bit more of that observational session and that check it out first, and then we can actually work forward from there. So let's see. When she reacts, she doesn't listen. So no, because when they're reacting, they're over threshold. Typically what you're describing is over threshold. And so they're not going to quote unquote listen if they don't have a good foundation. Okay. So part of that's, again, obedience, but then part of it's the emotional state. Observational sessions are going to help with the emotional state of dogs, teaching that check it out, that, hey, that this is just something that's really positive, and then basically teaching really good foundations. So the example that I can give is why do I say that, is that I do protection sports. So like if I'm sending my dog to do a bite for, quote unquote, the bad guy in a sport, and suddenly someone says, nope, civilian, it's not actually someone that I'm supposed to have the dog go bite. I have to turn them off, get them back to me right away. And regardless of environment, distraction, adrenaline, cortisol, whatever's going through that dog, I need that dog to stop, turn off, and come back. So in true foundational work, your dog is ultimately too young right now to do that. In 7 months, they're not, in my opinion, old enough to have that really solid foundation. We got to keep working on it. But ultimately, we want to teach that foundation so that regardless of environment, distractions, etc., anywhere, anytime, under any distraction, your dog comes back when called. So not listening probably just means they can't listen in that environment just yet. So let's go back to some basics. Get a really good come touch, get a really good recall, get really good with observational sessions, changing the emotional state, and then you're going to be able to get back. Alicia says, same with my pup. He's so focused on barking, no matter how loud I talk to him, he won't stop. The louder you talk, in some ways, that's kind of like you barking with them and backing them up. So if they're on leash, we talk about prevention. So in behavior, again, too, if they're reacting and they're not on a leash and they're doing what they need to do because it's making them feel better, you got to prevent it. We've got to put a leash on them. We've got to prevent them from being able to do whatever they want. And that way we can guide them. So, if my dog's on leash and I'm outside and he's barking and I go, come touch, and my dog doesn't listen, for whatever reason, I'm going to walk myself down the leash. So walking myself down the leash means I'm not dragging him back, but I'm not letting him go forward. So I'm walking myself down the leash. I'll go right in front. Come on, let's go. And off we go in the other direction. So that's preventing him from continuing to get reinforced by the behavior that's self-reinforcing to him and makes him feel better. So if they're not listening, we go back to they're not ready for that environment. We've got to have a good foundation. We've got to really help them change the emotional, like what they're seeing as the emotional state is why they're being reinforced by it. And then we can go ahead and get them back to us so that in the future, a couple weeks down the line, he might explode and be like, whoa, 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 I don't like that. And you can be like, come touch. And he'll be like, okay, I'll come back and touch. What do you want me to do now? Do you want me to keep barking at him or do you want me to sit? I'd like you to sit. I'd like to let's go. I'd like to stay. I'd like to do all those other foundation things. When they know it, they do it. 90 to 95% of the time, if we train to that level, there is no 100% in behavior. So that's something where, if someone says they can get something 100%, I go, that's to me, in my opinion, for what it's worth, there's no 100%. Why? Because I'm not 100%. I can't expect my dog to be better at behavior than I am. You know, there's no 100% in behavior. Something is always going to change and make us make a mistake. You know, there's always going to be certain situations that are going to do that. So when he makes a mistake or when she makes a mistake, we want to have as much foundation on board so that we have 9 times out of 10 habit that 1 time out of 10 they don't listen. Well, I go right back into that second cue or help them to come back that third cue, and they're going to come right back into that habit that they have. So, you know, again, I kind of go back to a little bit more obedience foundation cues, but changing the emotional state so that they're not actually going, oh my gosh, what is that? Well, check it out. Oh, okay. Quiet. Come touch. Yes, let's keep going walking this way. And when they make that mistake, I have control of them more verbally than I ever have to worry about the leash for. Does that make sense to both of you? Like to start again, instead of going into like all the basic cues and things like that. I'm kind of doing more general stuff. So if you want to talk more basic cues and get really personalized, absolutely, nationwide, worldwide consults. I'm happy to help in any way I can. We can definitely talk about how to get those basic foundation cues down too. Zena, oh, I'm glad puppy's doing well in touch. Good. Teething. Okay. Sometimes get mouth over my hand, not nose boop. Okay. That's all right. You just keep working on it. Really, working on something called a gentle session. So like, you know, if we're doing touch with our hand, right? You know, touch, yes, and pay, touch, yes, and pay, touch, yes, and pay. Well, I usually will do a gentle session. So like if I'm getting kind of like this whole thing, you know, it depends on how you're holding hand. You're holding hand like this, you're holding hand like this. Are you holding your treat like this? You're holding your treat like this. A dog, I'm hoping this kind of makes sense. A dog kind of has to see that they have to take the treat like this. So I'll do flat hand, the treat under my thumb, and do like a gentle session. So I won't even say touch, but the dog will come up and be like, oh, that treat's under there. And I'll be like, gentle, yes. Oh, there's a treat under there. Gentle, yes. And so I release the treat with the yes, but they learn how to use their incisors, their front teeth, versus plonk and go over the whole thing. So maybe doing a couple little gentle sessions to teach your dog how to do gentle treat taking is definitely going to be worth it in the long run, just so that we eliminate some of those extra mistakes. Again, right? We're always going to make mistakes. It's never the situation. It's how we react to the situation. So the more mistakes they make, the more habit kind of builds of like every now and then I get away with it. So, and not that they're doing anything except work. So if we can teach them gentle, yes, and get them in a habit, you don't have to worry about the taking the treat usually so roughly. You know, and again, hopefully that makes sense over the internet. And chewing on the leash. Does pull to go home after she has her business on a walk. The pulling to go home, Zena, is probably have to do with some of her anxiety you alluded to earlier with her not liking to be outside. So working with observational sessions, check it out sessions, I'm guessing. I'm purely guessing, but kind of what I would suspect. So being able to just bring her out, let her do her business, and if she wants to drag you home right now, okay, like, you know, until we get more confident. But I might also just see if right after she does her business, can you get her to come touch? Yes. Even if it's for praise. Come touch? Yes. So that she's not focused on, I did my business and running home. She's focused on, hey, I did my business, I did one thing, and then we can go home. You know, one easy thing. And you might find that if you're doing more touch along the way, keep her with you versus dragging you home. Might be a suggestion to try right now while we're building her confidence. Yep, you're very welcome, Sandra and Alicia. Absolutely. Try it out. Let me know how it goes. Okay, yep, Zena, try the gentle session and see how that goes. Oh, Margaret, thank you. Yep, absolutely. Lots of stuff to work on. If you have any other particular questions and things like that, let me know. And I apologize. I have to scroll because I'm on my phone again with the technical difficulties with my computer. So I'm sorry if it looks a little weird. So Chris, you say, I run a rescue rehab. We have an 18-month-old German Shepherd Malinois mix. Ooh, fun. I love working dogs. Who came in very fear reactive. Oh, okay. Poor thing. We've worked with play and training to build his focus and confidence. Oopsies, it scrolled up here. Build focus and confidence, both in and out. Okay, particularly in the paddocks now, he's overconfident and is lunging and grabbing. First question, what is he lunging and grabbing? Is he lunging and grabbing a leash, your hand, coat, all the above, because it's a Malinois mix? Let me know that. I've removed the play aspect now. I'm working on encouraging calm when he approaches, and his focus is low. He's not treat or food oriented outside. Inside focus is good. Okay. It was a good explanation briefly, so don't worry about that. I know the breed very well. I work with Malinois Rescue actually as a proof foster mom, and I've had several of them. I love Malinois in particular. Not to say I don't love Shepherds. Shepherds are awesome working dogs too, but I see a lot of them. They're a little bit more neurotic. I use that term. I apologize that I don't mean to offend anybody, but they can have leaking behaviors and high anxiety and high reactivity. I see the worst case ones. I don't see the really good ones. I don't often see really good dogs. I see golden retrievers that try to eat your face off. So, we can definitely do hand and coat. Okay, thank you for that. So play is over arousal for him, right? So it's like whoosh, gets him way up here. Makes sense. Have you ever used a flirt pole to try to increase a little bit of distance between your actual hand doing some tug work and actually getting some distance with like a flirt pole? It's one of my favorite toys. And again, anybody who's listening and wants to do something fun with their dog, look up flirt pole. I have a couple of links and videos for how I use it, especially with I have an old English bulldog who absolutely adores it. Most of my dogs do, but he absolutely loves it. I also do pillow work with my dogs because again, I do protection sports, so I'm very familiar with the bitey ones. So being able to maybe increase some distance because he likes play, I'm assuming he likes play, it really helps him get out probably some of that frustration. We can work on lowering level of frustration to get some of that bitey focus out, because I'm guessing it's out of a little bit of that anxiety and reactivity. Video, if you're able to send me a video, I might be able to see a little bit more. I don't want you to put safety at risk, of course. I never want anybody to get injured, but like if you have video of randomly playing with him, send it my way so I can kind of make sure I'm seeing what I think I'm seeing, like picturing. But otherwise, what can we help to get him to do that? So, food orientation. We're talking dogs typically don't eat and they don't play when they're overstressed. So, thank you, Zena. I'm trying. And if anything ever doesn't make sense to anybody or I'm talking too fast, I get very passionate. Let me know. And I think I have to wrap up here in just a couple of minutes, but, let me know. But as far as for the Malinois Shepherd, with being able to teach them not to be over threshold, we again have to kind of work on the emotional state of the dog in addition to some foundation. So my first question would probably again kind of be, what kind of impulse control exercises have we started with him? And we can start in the house when he's low level, more focused, a little bit more food motivated. And then we can also tend to start bringing him outside for some of those, especially like observational sessions or check it outs and impulse control outside. Probably a little bit more in depth for if he's, again, going kind of ballistic over threshold, because the breed itself and genetics and environment itself is going to play a huge part of this versus like, say, a golden retriever. But he probably needs to do some bite work, the working type dogs. And I don't say bite work as far as like police dog work or sport work, but, being able to grip and play and do those things, even teaching him something like a retrieve, something simple as, I say simple, but even teaching him how to retrieve something might actually help him put in his mouth and be able to hold on to something in his mouth. Even if he's gnashing at it a little bit, it gives him an outlet for a little bit of this nervous energy while we work on getting him below threshold, especially since he loves, I'm assuming again, loves play. So in order to have him start to switch, we might be able to also, what kind of treats have you brought outside? Have you worked in before his meals? Does he work only for his meals and do kind of what's called a learn to earn program? Some of those things can help build food drive and build toy drive. Well, we don't need to build toy drive, but build food drive and help him to switch to toy drive and then switch back to food drive without getting him over threshold. When we introduce toys, this is why he's probably biting you. You're introducing adrenaline, you're introducing cortisol, and it takes 24 to 48 hours for some of those things to get out of the system. So especially for these dogs, and I say this lightly, but I have Dobermans. Malinois are Dobermans on speed. I kind of jokingly say that, but that's what I figured they are. And so if we have these really, 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 really high drive dogs, we have to bring them down. And so being able to give them an outlet for that and teach them a little bit more of how to control themselves is where I would start. So if we work before food, meal times, we do a little bit more of a learn to earn. We teach them how to switch to toys, but maybe the toys can be like a flirt pole or something that has a little bit of distance to it, so that he's not doing the biting of the hand or the biting of the sleeves, because that'll help. And I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, again, I'm happy to share some videos or talk with you a little bit more personally on it, because it's definitely something where I absolutely love working dogs, so I'm happy to help in any way I can. Chris, we'll try flirt pole, not used one. Okay, so maybe try flirt pole, might help some distance to help with that. And I never try to assume what people know or don't know, so I don't want to be too basic. He loves play, video would be possible. Send me some video. I can probably even start to say like, hey, at a minute 17, this is what I change or whatever. I do all the time. I do these all the time now. have been using tug, leave it and replace. Okay. He's going over threshold on that. Okay. So again, we might have to start in the house a little bit more with some impulse control and introduce the toy in the house, or, in an area where he's confident, and be able to work on impulse control there, and then be able to actually bring him back down below that threshold to help with that tug outside. It's probably just overstimulating outside. Okay. So yeah, yes, absolutely message me. I would be happy to help you a little bit more. Oh, thank you, Scott. Yep. Yeah, those Goldens are fun. And then Nicole, thank you so much. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right. So guys, I apologize. I was late coming into this. Anybody who still has questions, I will look in the comment section to see if I missed anybody, and I can reach out to you personally, or message me, friend me, follow the Trekking Dog Trainer. I'm happy to help in any way I can. And I want to say thank you all for attending the talk. And I do have 5 more, so you can kind of look and see which other topics I have out there. There are some cooperative care ones. There are some the non-food motivated dog. I actually do have a talk on the non-food motivated dog coming up as well. So hopefully, Cassie, absolutely, you're welcome. Yay with the potty training. Excellent. So yeah, hopefully you'll join me in some of the future talks, and hopefully no more technical difficulties. Maybe I'll just use my phone from now on. So thank you guys again. All of you have a wonderful, wonderful day. We'll talk to you later.